So kia ora and welcome to this session on field data collection tools for environmental projects. So let's have a look at this document first, hae.re/mobile. This will bring you to this one pager, or actually it's actually more than a one pages, there's 3 or 4 pages. But what I've done in this document is I've given you a little bit of information, a little bit more than what we normally do, because I think there's a very important set of tools to be aware of. I've given you access to an example one based on a project that worked with some whānau up in Taranaki a couple of years ago. So kia ora, and thanks again for letting me use this one. There is a bit of information here in a table about 4 key tools that I've used over the years for different purposes. So KoboToolbox, this is a free online hosted funded tool that we'll have a look at where it's hosted and how it works. That tool is based on Mōrena Roland, kia ora.
Good everybody, sorry I'm late.
So we're just going through the tools for today. So we'll have a quick look at Open Data Kit, which KoboToolbox is based on. We'll have a quick look at Survey 123, because all of these tools are pretty much the same. They're form-based. You can build your own forms. And then one kind of bit different one is PDFMaps, and we'll have a quick look at that as well. So it's important to remember that with all of these tools that we're looking at today, iwi and hapu decide where the data is going to go. They decide which tool is going to be used. They decide how the form is going to be developed, what questions are going to be asked, who has access to that data, whether it's kept in private or whether it's kept in public, whether it's made available public. You also decide how it's going to be shared with whānau or where it's going to be stored. So you can have it on the most convenient, of course, is the cloud-based systems like in Amazon and in Esri ArcGIS Online. But these cloud systems are not ideal for hosting personal private information about individuals. So we'll come to that as well when we have a look at the KoboToolbox, and I'll show you some links of where you can find out all the details there. I think it's important as well to remember that there's a continuum of risk, and so environmental data that we're talking about today is at the lower end of the risk scale. Waihi tapu, that'll be a future session talking about data, because that gets into sovereignty and storage and long-term safety and security. So today we're just talking from a environmental monitoring data where we might make the form public for anyone in, say, a kura or within a takiwa or any other hapu group to be able to submit forms to this database. So the example we're going to be looking at today, after talking with kaiko from a kura in near Hauraki, I thought it would be a nice way to focus this session on an existing need. And this can be applied to water quality, if those of you who are familiar with the SMAC kits from Whenua, for example, for water quality testing. Any of these things can be applied. So what I've done is I've created a basic form with a number of questions. So we're going out to monitor, say, pipi. So you might go out with your phone and select from the different species that might be there. And then some environmental questions about the location, the exposure, food availability, the tide, salinity, potential disturbances or impacts. And then also sort of a health and safety flavour to it that I came across, and I thought that might be useful to add in there, is particularly if you're out in talking about students from a kura, just being aware of their surroundings. And then also we may want photos, and of course the key thing with all of these forms are different to other form systems is the location. Very, very few systems will allow you to capture a place, a path, or an area within the actual form. And these three forms tools that we're looking at allow you to do that. So in this document, I have added a couple of animated GIFs just to sort of show the very basic process, but I'm going to be stepping you through that. All going well. And you can access the Roland if you want to have a look at the demo form as well, just haere/moana, and it's in the chat as well. So feel free to go through that form. Now, this is my test form, so I'm encouraging you to go through that form, submit it, add a photo if you have one of Shellfish, or maybe borrow one of Google, and just submit it and go through that form, check all the boxes. It doesn't matter what you put there because it's just for testing, and press submit, just to see how it flows. And then we're going to talk about the different frustrations that you might feel or find as you go through those forms. For example, how long is it? Is it too long? Are there too many questions? Do you know that, can you understand all of the options that are there? Should there be other options? Should there be less options, more questions, less questions? All these kinds of things come into play. Okay, so let's have a look at a few of these links in this table. So I'm going to come back to KoboToolbox because that's the one I want to focus on today, because it's a really good representative tool. It's also free, which is a key aspect, and there's some really neat functionality in that one now. So KoboToolbox and ODK, or Open Data Kit, they both allow you to create, both have a mobile app, and we can have a look on Google Play to access the Android version of the mobile app. So this is what it looks like on your phone. So you can see here, you can take a picture. Now what it's doing is it's not just it's a normal picture, but it's taking, it's putting it into a database or like a spreadsheet. Let's see what else is there to have a look at. So mobile app comes with it. You don't have to deploy a mobile app. It just has an app that you can install on your phone and submit forms within it. You can create and design your own forms, capture GPS location, so place. Also, you can draw a line as you walk, or if you wanted, you can draw a polygon or an area as you walk as well, start and stop. There you can have drop downs, which are kind of annoying on a mobile phone. You're much better off designing for what are called radio buttons, where you have all the options available. And if we just very quickly skip down to this picture, you'll see what these are: radio buttons. So no drop downs in mobile is my preference, because it's quite annoying to use, particularly if you're doing it for a couple of hours and you're doing several dozen submissions in a form. So you can make selections. There's this thing called skip logic as well. So for example, if you selected there was a tuna, then if you didn't select tuna, then nothing would happen. But if you did select tuna, then it might pop open another question or an additional question. And this is called the logic. And it might say, what type? Is it short fin, long fin? How big is it? Approximate length, approximate girth, perhaps, something like this. Both of these tools, they're very, very similar. They're both web enabled. That means you can have, there are a variety of different ways that you can use it. First one is you can have it on your mobile and only on your mobile, and you don't have to submit it to any server anywhere. You can just keep it on your mobile, come back to your laptop, and you can transfer that data to your laptop. Never has to go on the internet. Second one is you can set up your own server with both of these, both KoboToolbox and ODK. Both are, the software is free, open source. You can then control the installation. You can set up your own server in your own office, or you can use a laptop as a server as well, and you can submit your forms to that server. That's very advanced though. So if you're not familiar with web servers and maybe that kind of stuff, it's quite hard work. Both of these tools allow you to capture forms and capture GPS locations and photos without having to be online, without data, without Wi-Fi. The key thing is you must set it up on your phone. That is, download the form that you're going to do before you go offline. Both systems allow you to download the data from wherever you might be storing it, whether it's on the hosted environment, on your mobile, or wherever you might be storing it, and also export to different formats. And both systems have maps and graphs, and I'll show you those this morning as well. The key thing is KoboToolbox is aimed for non-for-profit, developing countries type projects. So it's very popular with a lot of health agencies in developing nations, but it's hosted through the Harvard Humanitarian Initiative. We'll come back to that. I said we're going to come back to it. And with OTK, although I haven't been able to do this myself, I understand you can use this with Google Drive, and you can submit your forms and they go to a spreadsheet hosted in Google Drive. They both also allow for encrypted and encryption between the mobile and the server, which means that no one else can see what's being transferred. But remember also, we're just talking about environmental data. So today, and that's more than likely, we want to make the whole lot public at some point anyway. So Survey 123 is for those, this Survey 123 is basically provides the same functionality as KoboToolbox. However, it has the advantage that it allows you to have additional integration with other data sets, such as from council or from your own data. You can set up automated ways for a form to be submitted, and then update a dashboard summary or internal summary. So there are a few advantages to this one. We'll have a quick look at that as well. Now, each of these, I've got a very short video that you can click on and have a look at. And if you're just joining us, you can access this file at haere/mobile, hae.re/mobile. And we're just having a look at the different options here. So 1, 2, and 3, KoboToolbox, Open Data Kit, and Survey 123, they're all not identical. They each have their own pluses and minuses. Survey 123, of course, requires an ArcGIS online subscription. So if you are, if your organization or your group is using ArcGIS Online, you will have access to survey123.arcgis.com, and it's just there and works, and it will be more than likely that you'll choose that one if you're an existing ArcGIS Online user, because it just works, makes sense. The data is just there in your account. Okay, PDFMaps is another one to have a look at. Let's have a quick look at this one. PDFMaps is a bit different. It allows you to take a map or PDF and view it on your phone offline, and also capture information. So you can create your own PDFs using QGIS or ArcGIS, and then open them with PDFMaps, Avenza PDFMaps, and it allows you to not only see where you are, but also hold your finger on the map and it'll drop a pin. And this is one thing that the others don't allow you to do, which is good and bad at the same time. It allows you to create a form in the field on the fly, or an ad hoc form, so you can choose how you want it to be in the field. That's great if you're stuck out in the field and you forgot to load a form and you just need to create something and capture some data quickly. When you get back to the office and you try and merge that form or that data with other data sets and other spreadsheets or other forms, that's where it's not fun. So just be aware that PDFMaps is handy. It has its purpose. It's useful, allows you to create data, allows you to view PDF maps offline. And you can have satellite images. You can download the LINS topo maps for whole Aotearoa. You can central place all this kind of stuff. Just be aware that it is an option for some people, for some projects. Okay, let's have a look at KoboToolbox. So I've been using KoboToolbox and ODK, more KoboToolbox just because it's easier and it's hosted. And this is a key thing with open source software, is that to use it online, you need to have a server set up so you can submit forms to that server, wherever that server may be and however that might be set up, whether you have the server or someone else provides the server. Generally, there is a cost associated with that. And in this case, with KoboToolbox, it is sponsored. It's not, I wouldn't say it is free to us, but it's sponsored software. So what does it allow you to do? Create forms, design forms however you want, reuse existing questions. So you can create, let's say you're creating a series of forms, one for marakai monitoring, or one for freshwater monitoring. In this case, we're doing a shellfish monitoring, but you might also have one for estuary monitoring, where you have a variety of different questions. So it allows you to reuse them, so you don't have to just keep recreating the entire form every time, which is helpful. You can build in skip logic. So if I select that this is a tuna, then the question pops out further. So that's skip logic. And also, if I select it as tuna, I must put a measurement of approximate size. I don't have to say whether it's short fin or long fin, but that's the kind of things that validation can be. Also, things like if there is a comment field and you want people to put a statement rather than 3 letters, for example, you can add a rule that says you should put more than 10 characters in this field. With the form that you have now got access to under haere/moana, let me just make sure that's, haere/moana, which is this form here. What I've done is I've taken those kind of example questions that I just made up, and I've used a variety of different formats. And you'll see a couple of them are a bit more user-friendly than others. A couple of them are annoying, but you'll see when we get to that. You can include location, point, line, polygon, places, paths, and areas. You can add photos. You can even add videos. You can also add audio recording. So if you're doing a more tier and you wanted to or capture some kōrero as you're standing there, you can record it without necessarily having to put it on video, say, for example. Or you can just take a recording of the environment, the bird song, the sounds of the beach. If you remember in the story maps workshops that we did, the story maps wānanga, there was a particularly good one from one of the First Nations in the Grand Canyon, where they had an audio track in there as well. So these are ways that you can capture stuff. Okay, and in terms of easily share projects with colleagues. So what that means is colleagues as in others within your group, your working group. So you can set granular permission levels. That means you can have you as the administrator, one other whānau as an editor, or the only other person that could see the full submitted forms. So you can control that access. Or you can make certain parts of it with certain fields available for anyone who has the link, or you can only make the location available. There's all kinds of different options in terms of security. And import and export XLS forms. So Excel spreadsheets you'll be familiar with. KoboToolbox, ODK, Open Data Kit, and Survey123 all are based on what's called a schema, which is an Excel-like form that defines the structure of your data. So this field has these options. We won't get into that one today. That's more of an advanced part. So for collecting data with KoboToolbox, you can be online or offline. That means you don't need the internet. Any phone, any tablet. Now, any phone, that means Android, iPhone, anything that will run a browser. You can also, there's a Kobo Collect app that you can install on the phone, and that just makes it easier than having to work within the web browser on a phone. You can see here's just some samples. And if you have a look on your phone at the moment, you'll be able to see that it will look different when you turn your phone sideways, or whether you look at it on a computer or whether you look at it on your phone. If you're on your phone, it's going to ask you for the location, and just capture the location of your phone and submit that with your data. On a laptop, it's going to allow you to move the point, but generally on a phone, it uses the inbuilt GPS. You can also use SSL, which is encryption, so that it can't be read by a third party. That means it can't be read along its journey. It is backed up regularly. The data is safe and secure, so that means along interviews, both a long form that you might want to do. So this is sort of targeting health in developing countries, but you can do very, very long forms, or very, very detailed forms, so your data isn't lost if your phone goes flat or something like this. It's stored safely. And it's available immediately right after it's collected. That means you can go back and you can have a look at it on your phone if you want to see what you collected, but also as soon as you're back in coverage, it will upload it to wherever your server may be. You can create summary reports, graphs and tables. You can create a heat map. You can export out as a report or map. You can export your data, all of your data at any point in time. So to Excel, to a comma separated value table, a KML if you're a Google Earth user, or just zip, which zips everything together, particularly for photos. You want that. So to get started, you just create an account, or in my case, we'd log in. Now, just before we go there, I'm just going to open a new tab in the background. So, KoboToolbox.org. I want to just point out a couple of other things here. Quick start overview, and is my data safe? So here we go. Oh, there's the video. Let's come, just quick start overview, click on that one. So if this video is too short, or if I'm going too quick, aroha mai, this is recorded so you can come back and watch at any point in time, but I do go fairly quickly knowing that you can come back and watch. In support.kobotoolbox.org, quick_start.html, this shows you the basic process as a step-by-step guide of how to create your first form. So I'd recommend having a look through that beforehand, because just a little bit of time spent investigating the different ways that you can build these questions saves kind of learning as you go, which when you're trying to create a form and you're getting frustrated about not quite figuring out how to create the form the way you want, this will provide you with a much smoother experience. Quick start overview. And another one here, is my data safe? So this is important for Māori data, remembering that there is, in my mind, there's a continuum. So there is environmental data where you might be doing a monitoring project through to wahitapu, which is a different kind of story. And to be honest, I wouldn't recommend capturing your wahitapu through a form like this. You would be more likely to do it in a workshop environment. But have a look at the Ngāi Tahu Cultural Atlas. They've got some really good information about how they went through that process, and you can kind of see the end result there as well. But that was a very large project, very long-term project. So with any tool, your data has to go somewhere with web-enabled tools, whether it's on an Amazon server, whether it's on someone else's server, or whether it's on your own server. So with KoboToolbox by OCHA, I forget what it describes what the OSHA is, humanitarian something. What we use is KoboToolbox for HHI. This is for everyone else. So this is for us. It can be installed on your local computers or your own servers. But this hosted implementation is, no, this is not that. Hang on, let me just find it here. I looked at this last night. The only person who can access your data is the server administrator. And they never access your data unless you've given explicit access to it. You can install this on your own server as well. So there's some information there about encryption and storage. So for the purposes of a Shellfish monitoring project, I feel like I've got more than enough info here to feel comfortable about recommending this to a kura to say, hey, this is the tool I recommend for this. If you were looking at, say, Wahitapu or something else like that, then that might be a different story, and we'll come back to that later this year. So, and there's that link there to the video. So let's have a look at how do we use this thing. Just come out of there, come out of there. Okay, so here I am logged in to KoboToolbox. So to create a new form, I can go new, and it will ask me what I want to do. Do I want to use a template, one that Duane might have given us, that's from a Shellfish one, which I can. You can import this from URL, so I can provide that too, or you can upload an Excel-based form. So I'm going to build from scratch in this case. Enter the project here, sample matatai form. Enter a description, and this is if I choose to make it publicly accessible for other people to so on that scale of access, if I wanted other people to be able to find and access it, then I can choose to. And do I want to help them by sharing the sector and country where this project would be deployed? Absolutely. If they're giving me free access or sponsored access, then I'm happy for them to name this project. You don't have to tick that. So beginning our form, at the moment it's empty. The first thing is we add the first question. So in this case, what species? Add question, and I can select one. So I'm just going to bring these side by side. Just finding it here, finding windows. Here we go. Now come down here to my species. So it's really helpful to have discussed and thought about what you're going to put in your form before you start building your form, because it's just much easier. So I'm just going to do a couple here. Pipi, tohara, tuatua, and if I find some, say some tua, tuani, there we go. Put those there too. Anything else there? Oh, maybe there might be some scallops at this location too. Some tipa. Okay, so let's have a look at press save. What does this look like already? It's just doing a preview. So you can see this is what our form looks like straight away, and we validate. It's just going to check it, but we can submit it if we want. Let's add another question. Let's have a look at the different types of questions. In this case, I'm going to use sediment type, and there are bound to be more sediment types than this, but this is the half dozen that I used. So let's have a look at the different questions here. So you can have a radio button, that's what this is called, where you select one, and that's what I've used in that form, Haere/Moana, quite a bit. You can add a decimal number, so it must be a number with a decimal point. I don't know if, oh yeah, here's a plain number, so this is a whole number, so this one could be 1.25 in terms of depth or any kind of value. This one can only be, whoops, I'm just going to change that. Whoops, okay, have to redo. because I clicked it too soon. Number has to be a whole number with no decimal place. I can ask the user to draw a point, just simple pin, or I can have it so they can draw a line. So if they needed to capture, say, a fence line or a track, then you can use that, and you'll go, the user will go, the person doing the form will go start, and they'll start walking, and then they'll go stop, and it'll capture the line, and the same for the area. And you don't need to be online, you can do this offline. If you wanted to provide a way to calculate an area, for example, if you were looking at the size of something, you could go 2 meters by 2 meters, and it will automatically tell you that it's 4 meters square or something like that. I haven't used that one myself yet. If you wanted to select more than one, then you would select many. So if I wanted to say this question, select from sandy, muddy, blah, 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 showy, coarse sand, fine sand, stony, pick more than one, I can have that, or I can just pick one. The date, I don't generally use, because I use the date from the form itself when it's submitted. It will tell you the time and date that that form is submitted. But date and time are frustrating to use in a form. So my recommendation is to try and avoid using them if you can, unless you need them, unless you need to specify something like a date in the future from the point that you're collecting the form. So say I'm collecting it today, and I know some activity is going to happen in 3 weeks' time, so I want to put that date for some reason. A photo, I can add a photo in that haere/moana form. You'll see there's an option to add a photo. There's also an option to add an audio recording, so you can just hold the phone up and capture the audio from the ocean or from the ngahere or the manu, whatever you wanted to do. You can also capture a video where you might want to show what's happening, which is often more interactive than a photo. But sometimes, remember, with a photo, you'll get a high resolution image. With a video, you may or may not get the same level of quality with cell phones. The photo, what I'd suggest there is, rather than just one photo, is to provide some guidance about take a photo straight down and add a second photo, take a photo of the landscape or the environment, something like that, depending on what you're surveying. A note is literally a note to the user of the form. So it's not where you take a note. That is called text. So if you wanted to put a box there for kōrero or whakaaro, which I think I put in that form, then ABC text is the one I've used there. You can have, if you need to, I think that one, I haven't used it myself, but I'm pretty sure that's either you scan a barcode or a QR code. So I know Doc, for example, have put QR codes on their some of their huts and things. Pretty sure that's where you would scan that and capture that information. A file, you might use that one if you're using it for an unusual non-environmental monitoring purpose where you wanted to collate files and upload them to your server. Probably more so for desktop users where you're using a laptop to collate the data. And here's a date and time field, so you can pick from drop downs. Let me just show you that one. Sediment type, let's just change that one, date and time. And if we go and preview, you can see here, you can pick. So this is actually not too bad, but this gets a bit frustrating. But remembering that your form, when the point that you press the submit button, it's going to capture the date and time that you submitted that as well. And I'll show you there's some other things that you can capture as well. Let's just come back into there and question. I've used the acknowledge question in that form in the Moana, haere/Moana form, where it's at the bottom, but it could be, I've used it in the past, for example, to say, hey, I confirm there's no personal information in this form, submit. I agree, or something like that, depending on what you need. The range I've used in that form as well, you can see it's the depth field. So if I go to that form, why didn't I do this before? I have no idea. I'll blame Roland. So you can see here, this is a text field, a photo field, the location. Come back to that ranking one. Here is the range. So you can see here what I've done is I've said, okay, up to 180 centimeters depth in terms of our survey. And here is the acknowledge field and there's submit. The ranking field, this one is kind of annoying. I wouldn't recommend using it unless you really need to, and it's here, ranking of hazards and things, and I just sort of use that one as our hazards thing. So you can, if you wanted to, you might have some purpose for it. There's no reason why you couldn't use it. I just personally find that quite annoying. Okay. Let's just check that's all the different types of questions. Note, hidden, not sure what that one does. I didn't have a need to try to test it out, so I'm not sure what that does. Video, acknowledge, ranking, range, file, question matrix. There's a question matrix in here. Here is a question matrix where I've had two choices, present or absent, for all of these different types. And you may or may not implement this type of question this way, but I was just sort of demonstrating the different ways you could use that form. Did I use another one of those? Oh, here's another matrix up here. So question matrix, where I have said, okay, for Toheroa, there are none at this location. For Pipi, there are a few. For Tuatua, there's none. Paua, there's none. Turangi, there are many. Til, there are some. Kuku, there's none. Tipa, there's some. None. Let's go through and fill this form. Species, I'm just going to pick Pipi for now. Pick muddy, sandy, fine sand. Low energy waves, plentiful algae, tidal regime, sand flat, sheltered coastal beach, some flowing streams, nearby rhythm. There we go. I'm thinking of Petone when I was doing this one. Steps from the high tide mark. This was just an example of using the number. To make it whakaaro. I have many. Photo, I can add a photo location. So if I press this button here, it's going to use the GPS or the internet location, and it thinks I'm in Christchurch, and I'm not. So on the desktop, I can move around like this, and I can press it and submit it. It gives me the latitude, longitude. Pick some more things, press submit. Record queued for submission. Queued records, except those marked as draft. So I can save it as draft if I want to come back to it. Uploaded automatically in the background. So this will say it's uploaded in a few seconds. There we go. Okay, now let's have a look at, leave that form. Let's have a look at the Haere/Moana form. So this is a project. So there are the form, but there's also the data and there's all the settings that goes with it. Let me just check how we're going for time. Cool, no, we're good. So we can see here there are 4 forms that have been submitted. So if you want to go through and submit your form just now, feel free to click through, click and press submit. This is just our test one. This is about our project. So past 7 days, you can see maybe there's one form there today. Is that today? Yep, one form today. The form itself, I can go through and I can edit the form. Go in here and I can edit. So here's my form. So you can see all those questions that I had set up. Just come back out of that somehow. close, there we go. Come back to the form. Let's have a look at the data, because now we have some data in there. So here we can see I've got select one species. There are some pipi, there's some paua, and that's percentages, what that looks like. And you can see you can get this kind of a report. And you can also filter by time, date, that kind of thing. Here's our raw table. So when each time we submit a form, it's captured in a spreadsheet-like format. So here we can see the details there, the location, name of the photo, and if we come here into gallery, here we can see some of those forms that have been submitted. Whoops, just get rid of that. Oh, missed it again. Okay, gallery, come back here. Here's our pipi, our paua, and a picture of the beach. Let's go to download, no, map. Okay, so we can see here are those 4 records as they've been submitted, and we can click on them to get the information from each one. There's the picture, there's the accuracy, the lat long, all of our choices in there. So that's useful if we want to just look at that one particular record. And it's like, who was this over here in the water? So you can go over there and have a look. So, that was the guys going for the paua. I can tell you there's no paua over there. So you can click through and you can have a look. Okay, go to settings. Let's have a look here. Project name. Click on this media tab, nothing there yet. Sharing. This is an important one. And Roland will have seen one that's already caught his eye, but we're coming to that next. So who has access? For now, just me. No one else, just me. I can share the form publicly, so that's why everyone can access it. Now, so what I've done there is I've taken that and I've used a short.io short URL to make it into haere/moana. So if I give you this link just here, paste that onto the chat, it's going to take you to the same form. Here's a key thing. If I wanted you to be able to see the forms, what I can also go is I can go tick on that. So now that means anyone who submits a form is going to be able to see the form. So I'm going to leave that on because this is a test form and I want everybody to be able to have a look at that. I can add a user. So if I've got other people signed up for KoboToolbox and I have their username, say if I can go in there and I can go Pomana, let's say Roland, that was Roland's username for, say, example. I could say he could edit the form and view the form. And you can see this kind of this scale of permissions. I can allow him to view the submissions or only from specific individuals, not everybody. So I could say, okay, I don't want Roland to see Arangi Marcus ones because, yeah, that'll just make him angry or something like this. And all the way down to manage the whole project. So I can sort of set it up and I can delegate it. Okay, Roland, you go and look after this one now. Okay, and REST services. So REST services is this magical web service format that we looked at late last year when we added data from LINs, from Māori Land Court, from other places to our maps. That was called using a REST web service. And so this allows you, if you have an Esri ArcGIS Online account, allows you to set up so that when you get a new form submitted, it can notify and push the data to a ArcGIS Online account as well. So that will be really useful, particularly for groups that may not have access to ArcGIS Online due to cost, or have a relationship with another organization that does, and just, well, there are all kinds of opportunities there to use that. Okay, so there we have it. That is the main gist of creating a form. Let's have a quick look at Survey 123. Oh, if I had it there for a while. Did I lose it? Gone somewhere? Here it is. Survey 123 is the ArcGIS online product, and let's go create a new survey. It's perhaps a little bit slicker, a little bit easier in some cases, species, but of course you need to have a licensed account. Species, what am I doing? Type survey. So if you have any questions, any parts, feel free to put them in the chat, and we'll come to those just in a couple of minutes. And of course, this is being recorded, so you can come back and watch it. So Survey 123, very, very similar. You can see over on the left here, sorry, over on the right, the other left, we have a single line text. So that's where a simple question like, your name, could be something like that. Then we might add one in here, kōrero, and we can have something else there. And then we can have a single choice, which is choose. And then we go in here and we can have good, fast, or cheap. And what we can do, and the same as within KoboToolbox, we can do logic-based questions. So you can only have 2, for example. I think it's that one. Maybe it's another question, but it's the kind of thing that you can do. Multiple choice, maybe. Perhaps that could be it, where you can only have 2 choices, for example. Pick any 2, good, fast, or cheap. Like-error is the scale-based question. So this could also be based on depth or any other kind of question. Map, you can have an email that what that's going to do is validate that it's got an @ symbol in the middle and that it goes something.com or something.something. Website, that's going to store it in a way that the URL can be linked, can be clicked on, and then it links. You can have a signature. So you know when you sign for a parcel on the courier form for modem or something like that, then that's the kind of thing there where we click on that. So we can draw sign above the line, click on there. So that's a one advantage here. And also you can have groups. So you could have a set of questions, 3 or 4 questions of in one group, and then you go next group of questions rather than just in a whole list, for example. You can change the appearance and the colors and styles and things like that as well, of course, and then customize the message at the end. So that's just a quick look at Survey 123. You can also, of course, the collaboration here is about permissions. So I've got to publish it before it's going to let me do anything there. So if I press publish, just being very quick here. It's setting everything up. It's setting up the web service to run it. It's doing all kinds of stuff in the background, creating the form. So if you want to change the form as well, it's always easier to make changes before anyone has submitted any forms. Once someone submitted a form and you have to change the structure, the data, then generally there is a workflow that you'll need to do to update. So if you have a question of tuna and you just have tuna and then 50 forms come in, selected tuna, and then you decide, okay, actually we want to know how big are these tuna. So you click, you change the question. Those first 50 records are never going to have the size associated with them. So it's important to do a lot of testing before you start using the form in anger, as they say. So collaborate here is the permissions. Who can submit the survey, so you can control who has access to it. People just do your organization. For anyone or just me as it is at the moment. Now within the Manaaki Promise system, we use this option here where we wanted people to be able to submit data and also maintain their own data as a way to ensure the security of their data. So they had to be logged in. They could add and update their own records. Somewhere in here, it's basically this question here, I'm pretty sure. Submitters can only access their own records. Add new records, add and update records, update and delete only their own records. And that means they need to be logged in. And of course, with Survey 123, same as Kobo, same as ODK. ODK is virtually the same as Kobo, except there's no free server option at the moment. With ODK, you've got to, where is it, that document gone? You've got to either have your own hosted server or you need to pay, and actually it's quite steep. I noticed there it was something like $160 a month. Now that's only if you want someone else to host your database. Okay, I have been yapping for far too long, but I really wanted to get through all of that because I think this is such a critical tool for so many projects. There is links in here, you can go through and have a look through there, but if you wanted my suggestion, start with KoboToolbox. If you outgrow KoboToolbox, then, and if you're interested in doing it yourself, there still will be a cost because you'll need to have a server, you'll need to spend the time. Then you could look at, say, Open Data Kit. That's going to give you access to all the tools. Oh, there we go, there's the hosted one. That's only if you're paying someone else to host it. And then the sort of the most easy option to use if you have access to ArcGIS Online is Survey 123. And then PDFMaps might be useful, might be of interest as well. And there are many maps in there you can access for free. Okay, so that is what I wanted to show you for today. Just going to come and have a look at questions here. Oh, aroha mai. Roland, I just saw your message there. Okay. So if you end up using a second tool and you want to transfer your data, question there for Mia, process is not simple. So if you wanted to start using, say, Kobo, and then you wanted to transfer that data to ODK, it is possible, but it's not something you would do by choice. You would have to do import data. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend thinking of doing that from the beginning. You'd probably more take your data out and put it somewhere else that you might access as a one-way trip. Question here from a user, kia ora. Can you do a trapping map? Absolutely, but also with trapping data, for example, there are other tools that might be better suited. So for example, Trap NZ, I know Doc has one as well that they provide, which is really super sophisticated and super smart. But yeah, Trap NZ and Roland may be able to suggest a couple of others there as well for trapping.
Yeah, there's heaps of trapping apps out there, right?
Yeah. I mean, I have time. If you want to, do you want to give a quick demo of that trapping there, Roland?
Yeah, well, because somebody brought up trapping, let's have a look at trapping, and I want to follow up on some of the stuff you mentioned, Duane, and just remind everybody how important it is. So yeah. I'm going to share my screen.
Cool.
Hopefully that's viewable. I really like what you said about radio buttons, Duane, because it's when you guys are designing these forms, really think about that stuff. The important stuff that Duane mentioned is, like, he's defined all his parameters first, so what goes in this list. There's an example of a trapping app, and like it's done in Survey 123, date and time, and it grabs the user's date and time off their phone. It shows it there, but they can actually change it if they want to. The little red asterisk, I think we all know what that means. It's a required question, so it's got to be there. Please log your location. On Survey 123, the most important button is that little, hopefully you guys can see that crosshairs thing where it says find and update that every now and then, because it just grabs a location off your phone. Yeah. And then, like Duane said, we've got radio buttons. So this example, there's 2 types of traps in this little patch of bush, or there's planned to be 2 types of traps. All the questions are, they won't come up until you've actually filled in the next one. So if you choose, I'm checking a Doc 200 trap, and we say, I'm checking trap number 1 because I'm at trap number 1, then our next question comes up. And it's basically to stop the user just scrolling and skipping questions by mistake. So you have to actually work your way through each question before it takes you to the next one. And we have a little bit of logic built in here around some questions will actually jump you ahead. There's, if you answer this to a question, there's no point in answering you the next question, so you'll jump past it. So simple questions, has your trap called anything? Now, something that Duane didn't cover is defining all your parameters is, don't pretend that you can know every possible thing that your trap could catch. So I always build in things like other, and it kind of covers my wildcard. These are the standard responses we're going to get from a trap, a rat, a mustelid, a mouse, a hedgehog, and there might be
show that one, Roland, because I think that one does something that KoboToolbox doesn't. It allows you to put in a
so basically when you click other, it just generates a free-form text field. So you can, if it's not on my list, and it's we've had examples of actually little birds and thrushes that jump into traps and get caught. So the trap's been set off, so it's not sprung and no catch, she's caught something, but we can't list everything, otherwise this list gets huge. So we have basically what we call a wildcard. So we'll say a thrush got caught. Or yeah, it's our standard things. The other thing we've done with this particular trapping project is, while I've got people out there checking traps, volunteers, is just try and capture some contextual information along with it. So while they're at the trap is, can you hear any bird song? And they might say, yeah, we've kind of agreed what medium bird song sounds like. How windy is it while you're checking this trap? And it's like, there's no wind. Is it raining today? So we're starting to build a bit of context information around rather than just what's in my trap. And we say there was no rain. What's the general condition of the trap you're checking? And like Duane said, you know, radio button, so it's nice and quick. You can see all the options. The trap's good. And then I actually use a list, and this is where Duane said he didn't want to use a list, but I use a list, and it's actually just to slow them down at the end to say, let's say it was Dean who collected this. And then my final question is this trap all set to go for its next catch? And if I go yes, I can just submit it. If I go no, and this is where we're building in now a bit of our logic, it forces the text question of tell me why it's not set to go. And that kind of creates a red flag in the data set for someone to go, oh, there's a problem with trap 1 or whatever. But I can't overemphasize what Duane defined as, you know, setting your parameters first. Some things you can definitely say, I only want you to choose these 4 options: no rain, light rain, steady rain, heavy rain. But other things, when we're talking about stuff like that we're catching, and there's the chance that we don't know, and we're never going to know when we're designing this form, build in things like wildcards so that you can have an other, and that lets you still gather meaningful information when you're out on your survey. In response to the heat map, so if I submitted this form, and this is, I'm just previewing this form inside the designer of Survey 123. If I move Duane's picture out of the way, so I'm actually just in the design mode, and that's what it looks like when I'm putting it all together, and then we just previewed it. What Survey 123 does is actually create 3 separate data sets when you publish it. So we get the main data set, which is sort of like the master copy. We then get a field worker data set, and we also get a stakeholder data set. Now, the field workers and stakeholder data set, Duane showed when we talk about collaboration in Survey 123, we can use those. We can also use those in maps and showcase them, and then we can limit the way stakeholders who might want, they mightn't want to see all the weather information. That might be just context for us. Field workers need access to certain parts that they can change, but we don't want them to change certain things. So we can structure it. Everybody's got their own view, and everybody is allowed to add and update or delete certain records based on their view. So we take all that stuff and we've done ArcGIS. We've mapped, I'm going to show you now, is all that data feeds into a web map that we created, and we've done that last year when Duane showed how to create a web map. We've got a base map. What we've also done is taken this base map and pulled into what we call Esri's operations dashboards. And basically this is just a big filtering system of that entire data set. So if you look at all the questions we had dates. So now this trapping program's been running, it's only 10 traps, but it's been running for just over 2 years. So each trap has been checked 126 times. So they're being checked weekly, and we've got the stuff that we've caught. And so you can see here on the right-hand side in trap catch, there's been 3 others. We've had 9 mice, 4 mustelids, and 222 rats caught in these traps. We can take all that information and put it into an indicator and say, right, 222 plus 4 plus 9 is the stuff we've killed. What is that a percentage of the total traps that we've checked? And so we get total trap checks, we've got a running count, we've got total pests eliminated. And so we can get in some metrics, and it's just that nice dashboard overview. And then we've also got simple pie charts around the birdsong. So we've had 2% of the time there's been no birdsong in the last 2 years. What we can start doing though is we can start interrogating and see what was happening in May 2020. And in that month we caught 15 things. If I can choose multiple months and have a look at. So what the dashboard gives us is a really good insight into our data. So you can start, if I drag and highlight over all the pests, stuff in here by mistake. I can see where I'm catching stuff. I can see when I'm catching stuff. And for some reason, trap 2 and trap 7 seem to be, the highest scores. But if I look at just the pests at trap 2, what time of the year am I catching them? So we get way more insight from that nice simple data set, and it's going straight to our web map. So somebody submits a form from that survey 123 form, it goes through onto the web map and populates this thing. So we're getting pretty much, well, as close to live, but it's live when somebody presses a submit button. And it was just, I saw in the comments someone said about a heat map. And so we can sort of see, we can look at an individual traps record and just see what they're doing. We can look at, really interesting about this little reserve just out of Gisborne is like, it just doesn't rain. These traps are checked usually at 9 AM on a Sunday. So if you want to go somewhere nice on a Sunday morning near Gizzy, let's go to this place, because 88% of the time it just doesn't rain, which I really struggle to believe, but that's what happens. And that's the stuff once we start doing field data collection, and if we can collect contextual data with our core purpose like traps and rats and mustelids, we start painting our picture. So if you guys, like Duane had it on his Pippy survey, now the driver is the Pippy survey, but he's also capturing stuff around what the condition of the sea is like, what the weather's like. And then we start building pictures like this where we know how much rain, how much wind, how windy is it, because we start getting more insight into the area of interest we're in. So hopefully that explains sort of a little bit about the heat map and how quickly you can build. I'll get back to note design. And if I go to preview. But I guess the important thing, and I love that Duane touched on it, was preview what it looks like on the phone. Defining all your stuff first, so creating that table of this is my question, these are my possible answers, and then at times, well, we know it's a list, so we've only got 10 tracks. You'll notice on my track list I've also got other, and we found that not in this particular program, another trapping program I was helping out with, what do you record when you turn up and someone's actually stolen your trap? Because trap 7 is gone because it was near the road and somebody's taken it. So we had to create a wildcard and start thinking around like, actually, I need to write down the trap I checked was trap 7 is gone, and then just submit that record. But always think about, build that Word document with your table, with your questions, all the parameters, and then just think about always adding a wildcard because there's stuff we just don't know at times.
it's a good point, actually, Roland. Just be there for a second. So often a question people have is how do we go back to the same place over and over and over? And so if you have a specified number of places that you want to go back to and have a repetitive, like once a month, once a week, generally what you want to do is name them with either an ID or a place, or if you're really flash, you can do like a QR code you can stick on near the tree or the wherever. It's a bit harder, more difficult with the shellfish, but shellfish, for example, is one where you may not go back to the same location, and so you're more interested in the GPS. But if you're doing water quality monitoring and you want to go back to the same bridge every time, maybe you might name it, or you might name the site, or you might name, you know, the ID of that site. Trapping have defined numbers or IDs for those traps, and I know with the custom apps, I think, is it the one Doc does? It kind of automatically identifies it for you. But
yeah, Doc's walk the line. Like once you set up and you still name them, and that, what it's actually doing is, as your phone gets close to that trap, it knows you're next to trap 1 or trap 7 just based on its location in the GPS in your phone. So it's automatically entering, hey, you're at trap 7, tell me what's going on at trap 7. Yeah, that's really cool. But yeah, things like water monitoring sites, if you've got 4 of them, really think about your naming conventions, because like you said, you don't want to be trying to combine stuff later on, different data sets, and you don't want to have it to be changing the schema in the back end once you've set it up. So the old measure twice, cut once sort of mentality, like spend some time designing it, thinking about how you name things and thinking about the growth of things.
Hey, Roland, we might need to wrap it up. But thanks again for that demo, and maybe we could set up a special trapping session. Actually, I'd probably be interested in talking to you also about maybe doing it as one of the GeoBytes for GIS users as well. So, kia ora, and thank you for that. Okay, so that's us for today. We're a little bit over time, but it's pai. Just do a karakia to finish us off. But if you have any other questions, feel free to put them onto the Slack, and this recording will be available in the Google Drive probably later this afternoon or first thing in the morning, all going well. So thanks again to Roland for jumping in there, e hoa. Really appreciate it.